Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
Nobody expected Howard Stern to show up on The View ready for a fight, but that's exactly what happened. The man known for pushing boundaries and saying what others won't walked onto the stage with a look that said he wasn't there to sugarcoat anything. The topic was already explosive. Should parents have the right to homeschool their kids without any kind of certification? Everyone knew there would be opinions. No one knew it would explode. As soon as Howard took his seat across from Joy Behar, the tension sharpened. Joy came in hot, arguing that homeschooling without training was irresponsible and dangerous. Howard didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, stared her right in the eye, and asked her why she trusted the government more than parents. The audience gasped. The co-hosts shifted. Producers stiffened in their chairs. It didn't take long for Joy to fire back. It didn't take long for Howard to push harder. And it took even less time for the entire panel to realize this wasn't going to be a polite debate. It was going to be a clash. And when Joy tried to shut him down, Howard delivered a line that stopped the entire studio cold and left Joy staring at him in stunned silence. For the first few minutes, the mood seemed almost controlled. Not warm, not relaxed, but controlled. Howard Stern walked onto the set with his usual mix of confidence and blunt curiosity. Joy Behar greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, the kind she uses when she knows trouble might be coming, but wants the audience to think everything is just fine. Whoopi leaned back in her chair, amused already. Sunny offered her polished welcome. Sarah gave Howard a cheerful nod. But the air had that quiet hum, the one every regular viewer of The View recognizes. It meant something big was coming. Howard tried to keep things easy at first. He joked about being surprised they let him back on daytime TV. He teased the cameras. He even complimented Joy's jacket, which made her laugh for a split second. But underneath it all, both of them knew the topic wasn't going to stay light for long. Homeschooling is one thing. Homeschooling without certification, that's a storm waiting to hit. Joy kicked things off with her usual sharpness. Howard, you've said on your show that parents should have full freedom to educate their kids however they want. But don't you think there should be standards? You can't just hand a child's education over to anyone who feels like doing it. Howard didn't jump into the drama yet. He eased into it. Joy, most parents love their kids more than any system ever will. I'm not saying every parent is a genius. I'm saying they have the right to decide what's best. It's their kid. Joy smirked, but she kept her tone gentle. Sure, they love them, but love doesn't replace training. You wouldn't let someone perform surgery because they love medicine. Why should education be any different? Howard chuckled. Are you comparing algebra to open-heart surgery? Come on. Parents teach their kids everything. Speaking, walking, values. Suddenly they're too incompetent to teach fractions? The audience laughed. Joy didn't. Whoopi stepped in to soften the edges. Let's keep it open, folks. This is a conversation millions of parents wrestle with. Howard nodded, and that's exactly why I'm here. It's a real issue, not a political game, not a headline, just real families trying to figure out what works. Joy crossed her legs, settling in like someone preparing for a match. Well, Howard, I hope you're not suggesting that anyone can wake up one morning and say, "Today I'm a teacher," because that's not how good education works. He smiled, still polite. I'm saying every family is different. You can't force everyone into one box. Parents might not have degrees, but they know their kids better than any system ever will. Joy's eyebrows jumped. We give them credit, we just don't give them a teaching license. And that was the gentle spark, a small one, the one that comes before the flames. Howard smiled, the kind of smile that meant he was gearing up. Joy leaned in, sensing he was about to push harder. Whoopi shot a look at the producers. The audience straightened in their seats. The friendly veneer was still there, but the center of the table was heating up. It was clear what came next. The conversation was about to shift from curious debate to a full-on clash.
The temperature rose the moment Joy leaned forward, her tone sharpening just enough to signal she wasn't playing anymore. Howard, with all due respect, this idea that every parent automatically knows what's best for their kid, that's optimistic to the point of danger. Howard turned his chair slightly toward her, eyebrows raised. Danger? Joy, you're acting like parents are ticking time bombs. Most of them are doing everything they can to keep their kids safe, educated, and grounded. Joy didn't blink. Intention isn't expertise. A lot of these parents didn't do well in school themselves. Now they're supposed to teach high school chemistry? Government oversight exists for a reason. Howard gave a low laugh. Yeah, to make things worse half the time. Look, Joy, I've talked to parents all over the country. They pull their kids out because the system fails them, not because they're bored. Because teachers are burnt out, classrooms are overcrowded, and kids are getting lost in the noise. But suddenly, the second a parent wants to take over, we act like they're out of their minds? The audience clapped, some cheering. Joy shot them a look that said she wasn't backing down. I'm not saying the system is perfect, but at least teachers are trained. At least there's accountability. Howard's voice dipped, firmer now. And why don't we hold the system to the same standard you're demanding of parents? Kids graduate without basic reading skills every year. Where's that accountability? That line landed hard. Whoopi gave a small whistle. Sunny shifted her note cards. Sarah widened her eyes like she'd just witnessed a slow-motion car crash. Joy leaned back, trying to control the conversation. Howard, you're a broadcaster, not an educator. You're talking about gut feelings, not facts. Homeschooling without certification turns education into a free-for-all. Howard didn't miss a beat. And you're talking like parents are idiots. They're not. Some are more dedicated than any teacher I've ever met. And you know what certification guarantees? A piece of paper. Not passion, not patience, not presence. The crowd reacted. Joy shook her head. You're oversimplifying, and frankly, you're ignoring reality. Some parents are phenomenal, but others aren't equipped. Some can't teach, some don't have the time, some use homeschooling as a cover to avoid responsibility. Howard leaned forward, his tone dropping to a near growl. And you want the government to sort them out? You really trust that? Joy fired right back. I trust a system with structure more than I trust randomness. Howard smirked. Funny, because the system you trust so much is the same one every election cycle complains it's broken. Whoopi lifted her hands. Let's breathe, folks. But neither of them heard her. Joy pressed on, heat rising in her voice. Parents don't need to be perfect, but they do need training. Kids deserve that. They deserve teachers who know what they're doing. Howard countered instantly. And parents deserve respect, not suspicion, not oversight breathing down their necks like they're criminals. Joy snapped. Education is a profession, not a hobby, Howard. Howard's eyes narrowed and the entire crowd leaned in as he answered. And parenting is a full-time job, not a permission slip. The studio lit up, half gasps, half applause. Joy opened her mouth to reply, but Howard wasn't finished. You don't get to decide that a parent isn't good enough just because they don't fit your definition. You don't get to treat them like they're unqualified to raise their own kid. Joy's jaw clenched. The calm beginning was gone. This was open battle now. Whoopi finally cut in, leaning forward like a referee stepping between two fighters. Okay, let's keep it focused. But the damage was done. The sparks had turned into flames. The clash wasn't just heating up, it was burning. And the moment that would break the whole thing wide open was just ahead.
The shift happened in a split second. One moment, the table was loud, tense, combative. The next, Howard leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on Joy with a focus that made the entire audience go still. You could hear the silence settle over the room. Even the producers stopped moving behind the glass. Joy crossed her arms, bracing herself. If you're going to claim parents should have the right to homeschool without any certification, then you need to explain how that doesn't put kids at risk. Howard nodded slowly. You want an explanation? Fine. Let me tell you something I've never said on daytime TV. The room tightened. Howard took a breath. My parents didn't have any certification, no degrees in education, no training. But they taught me more at home than any classroom ever did. They taught me to think for myself, to question the world, to work hard. School didn't give me that. Home did. Joy blinked, caught off guard by the sudden shift from argument to vulnerability. Howard, that's your experience, not everyone's. I know, he said quietly. But you talk about parents like they're liabilities, like they're burdens, like they're too uneducated to guide their own kids, and that's what bothers me. Joy straightened, her voice firm. I'm talking about standards. Kids deserve them. Howard's tone sharpened. Kids deserve parents who aren't treated like suspects. The crowd murmured. Then Howard went further, and this was the moment everything cracked open. Do you know what it feels like to hear people say your parents aren't qualified to raise you, that they're too simple, too untrained, too normal? I do. I heard adults say things like that about my family, and it sticks. It sticks in a kid's mind forever. Joy's expression softened in a way no one expected. The line hit her. It hit everyone. Howard wasn't yelling anymore. He wasn't mocking or provoking. He was speaking from a wound he'd carried for decades. When you say parents shouldn't homeschool because they're not certified, what kids hear is, my parents aren't good enough. Do you understand that? Joy's mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to respond but couldn't find the words fast enough. Howard continued, voice low but fierce. A piece of paper doesn't make someone a good teacher. A title doesn't make someone worthy. You know what does? Effort, love, showing up. The audience sat in complete silence, hanging on every word. Joy finally spoke, and her tone had changed. I'm not trying to insult parents. I'm trying to protect children. I know, he said. But protecting children shouldn't mean discrediting parents before they even begin. You can create oversight without assuming incompetence. You can encourage training without forcing it. You can trust parents without abandoning standards. For the first time, Joy didn't fire back instantly. She looked down at the table, her fingers tapping lightly. You could almost see the conflict moving across her face, the tension between her belief in structure and the raw honesty Howard had just laid out. Whoopi stepped in gently. That's it. That right there, that's the heart of the argument, where freedom meets fear, where trust meets responsibility. Howard exhaled, shoulders dropping. Joy finally lifted her head, the fight still there, but the edge softened. The emotional flashpoint had been reached and passed. Now the room sat in the quiet that follows a truth someone didn't expect to hear. And from that silence, the breaking point was about to rise. The calm didn't last. It never does on a table like The View. Not when emotions are raw, tempers are warm, and the audience is sitting forward, waiting for the next impact. Joy inhaled, gathered herself, and lifted her chin with a look that everyone recognized. She wasn't done, not by a long shot. Howard, I hear you, but you can't build national policy on personal stories. We need rules, structure, some kind of standard so kids don't fall through the cracks. Howard's jaw tightened, just a little. And I'm telling you that over-regulating families creates new cracks, bigger ones, ones that cut deeper. Joy leaned closer, voice sharper now. So what? You want a free-for-all? Anyone can teach anything? No background checks? No training? No proof they can handle it? Howard shook his head, his patience thinning. Stop reducing my point to extremes. I'm saying parents shouldn't need a certificate to teach their own kids. You can have optional training, support programs, community checks, but mandatory certification? That's treating parenting like a profession instead of a right. Joy snapped back instantly. Teaching is a profession. That's the entire problem. You keep comparing parenting to education like they're the same thing. Howard's voice rose for the first time. Because they overlap. and because parents put more time into their kids than any teacher ever could." The audience erupted, half cheering, half gasping at the sudden burst of volume. Joy didn't back down an inch. "You're insulting educators. That's what you're doing." Howard pointed toward the crowd, voice steadying but firm. "No, I'm criticizing a system, and you're twisting that into an attack because it's easier to address the real issue." Joy's eyes narrowed, and her tone went icy. "You're dodging accountability, Howard. You're defending laziness disguised as freedom." That landed hard, too hard. Even Whoopi froze. Howard stared at her like he couldn't believe she said it. Laziness? Joy, do you know how much work it takes for parents to homeschool? Do you know how many sacrifice full careers, sleep, and sanity just to give their children a chance? Joy lifted her shoulders. "Love doesn't replace knowledge." Howard fired back instantly. "And certification doesn't replace caring." Another burst of applause shook the studio. Joy pushed her chair in, leaning forward with the kind of force that signaled she was stepping into her final argument. "Let me be absolutely clear. Education needs standards. You don't let just anyone perform legal work. You don't let just anyone prescribe medicine. You don't let just anyone operate heavy machinery. Kids deserve trained adults teaching them. That's it." Howard didn't hesitate. "And let me be absolutely clear. Raising a child is the most demanding responsibility on earth. And now you want the government to decide whether a parent is qualified to do it? How long before that logic extends to everything else?" The studio had gone from warm to electric. Joy held up her hand. "This isn't about taking rights away. It's about protecting children." Howard leaned forward so far his microphone caught every breath. "And this isn't about rejecting protection, it's about rejecting control." Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Howard didn't give her the chance. He hit the moment, the line that would replay across social media for days. "You keep saying parents need certification. I say maybe some politicians and pundits should get certified before telling families how to live." The audience exploded. Cheers, gasps, shouts. Even Sarah covered her mouth. Joy stiffened, insult flashing across her face. "So now you're implying I'm unqualified to talk about education?" Howard didn't break eye contact. "I'm implying that parents know their kids better than you ever will." That was it, the tipping point, the moment the room swallowed a breath it didn't release. Whoopi finally intervened, stepping into the verbal fire. "Okay, that's enough, both of you. We need a commercial." But the damage was done. The argument had reached its peak, and what came next would decide how this showdown ended. The tension had cracked wide open, and now only one thing was left: the emotional fallout.
The studio stayed loud even after the back and forth stopped. Howard leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, breathing hard through his nose like someone who'd just run a mile. Joy didn't look away from him, but the energy around her had shifted. Her smile was tight. Her co-hosts were frozen between stepping in or letting it sit a moment longer. The audience didn't bother hiding their reaction. Some clapped, some booed, some whispered like they were witnessing a breakup at a dinner table. Howard finally spoke again, but this time his voice softened. Not gentle, but real. "Look, Joy, you can disagree with me all you want. You can pick apart my tone. I get it. I'm not exactly subtle. But don't twist what I said into something it wasn't. I'm not championing chaos. I'm saying parents deserve respect. Same as teachers." He exhaled. "Same as you." Joy's jaw loosened at that last part. She blinked fast as if she wasn't sure how to take a sliver of sincerity after 20 minutes of verbal punches. "Howard, I'm not trying to twist anything," she said quietly. "I'm trying to protect kids. That's the bottom line for me. And that's the bottom line for me, too. We just see a different path to get there." For the first time all morning, they weren't shouting. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't war either. More like two exhausted people admitting they came in with armor and maybe didn't need quite that much.
Alyssa jumped in, trying to steady the table. "This is what it looks like when people actually care about an issue," she said, giving the audience a half smile. "It's messy, but it's honest." Howard nodded. "Yeah, I'm passionate. Sue me." Joy almost laughed. "Trust me, I've been sued before. You'll survive." The audience laughed. The tension cracked just enough for everyone to breathe. But underneath those lighter moments, the deeper question hung heavy. Who decides what's best for a child? A parent? A system? A balance of both? No one solved it today. Not fully, not neatly. But that wasn't the point. The point was that millions of parents watching at home live this debate every day. Some feel judged by schools. Some feel misunderstood by lawmakers. Some feel caught in the middle. Howard didn't offer a perfect answer. Joy didn't offer one either. But together, they showed what the real struggle looks like. Sharp edges, stubborn beliefs, and people fighting because they care. As the show wrapped, Howard stood, tugged his jacket straight, and said into the camera, "If you're a parent out there trying your best, don't let anyone tell you you're not qualified to love your own kid." Joy added, "And don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. No one raises a child alone." For once, their words didn't clash. They landed side by side, and the audience rose for a standing ovation.